The bell above the bakery door jingled softly, a sound that had become a part of the early morning symphony in this quiet little town. The sky outside was still dark, with only the faintest glow on the horizon hinting at the coming of another day. The bakery, nestled on the corner of Maple Street, was an oasis in the stillness of the morning, with warm light spilling out into the street as though it were offering a quiet invitation. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of fresh bread, cinnamon, and butter, the kind of smell that could make you feel at home, no matter where you came from. It was 5 a.m., and the baker, Ruth, was already at work. Her hands moved with a practiced ease, kneading dough, shaping loaves, and preparing the pastries that would soon fill the display case. Each motion was deliberate, as though every action carried a quiet message. This is how we begin again. This is how we trust tomorrow. She had been baking here for nearly 30 years, long before the bakery became a town landmark. Ruth had started this small business with little more than a few borrowed recipes and a deep belief that people needed something to hold on to in the early hours of the day. A place that promised warmth, comfort, and a bit of sweetness before the world took its toll. Hello and welcome to Everyday Epiphany, where simple stories spark soulful insights. Sit back, enjoy the journey, and may it brighten your day. There was a rhythm to these early mornings, one that Ruth had come to cherish. She knew the regulars who would trickle in just as the clock struck 5:30, their faces familiar, their orders memorized. The young college student who always got a blueberry muffin and a cup of coffee, the older couple who came in for 2 croissants and shared a quiet conversation over tea. But there was one person who stood out in Ruth's mind. Someone who wasn't as regular, but who always seemed to show up just when she needed a reminder about what it meant to keep going. His name was Thomas. He wasn't much older than Ruth's own son, and yet he carried himself like someone who had already lived a lifetime. His face was marked by lines of worry and exhaustion, but his eyes always sparkled with the kind of hope that seemed impossible given the weight he carried. He worked at the local diner, sometimes pulling double shifts, and came to the bakery on his way home, just before the sun rose. One chilly morning, Ruth noticed that Thomas wasn't his usual self. He stood at the counter for a moment longer than usual, staring down at the display of pastries without ordering anything. The silence between them stretched, and Ruth, sensing something was off, asked gently, "What's on your mind, Thomas?" He looked up, a soft sigh escaping his lips as he ran a hand through his messy hair. "I don't know, Ruth. I'm just tired. It feels like every day is the same. Wake up, go to work, come home, and do it all over again. I used to have dreams, you know? I used to think things would get better. But now, it just feels like I'm stuck in this loop. Like I'm waiting for something, but I don't even know what it is anymore." Ruth listened carefully, her hands stilling as she set the dough aside. She understood this feeling better than anyone. It wasn't just Thomas who felt lost in the quiet monotony of life. It was a feeling she had lived through, too. When she first opened the bakery, it had been about more than just bread and pastries. It had been about creating something meaningful, something that gave her purpose. But as the years wore on, it had become harder to see the larger picture. Sometimes, it felt like the bakery was the only thing she could hold on to, the only thing that remained unchanged. Thomas's words struck a chord with her, and without thinking, she offered, "You know, I get it. Every day can feel the same. But you have to believe that even in the routine, there's meaning. You see, tomorrow's always a new beginning. It's like baking bread. Each loaf starts with a blank canvas, and you never know what it's going to turn out like. Sometimes, you get a perfect loaf, and sometimes it's a little overcooked, but it's always worth trying again, because there's always another loaf waiting to be made." Thomas gave her a small, rueful smile. "That's a nice way of looking at it, Ruth. I think I've just lost sight of that lately." Ruth nodded, wiping her hands on her apron before pulling a warm croissant from the oven and placing it in front of him. Take this for today, it's fresh, and tomorrow, come back, and I'll have something new for you to try. Every morning is a fresh start, Thomas. Just like this croissant. Thomas's eyes softened, a glimmer of understanding breaking through the exhaustion. Thanks, Ruth, I needed to hear that. As he left, the early morning light began to creep across the sky, and Ruth stood in the doorway of the bakery, watching him walk away. She felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that, for just a moment, she had reminded someone of the beauty in starting again. There was a kind of faith in that, a belief that tomorrow, no matter how uncertain, held the possibility of something new, something worth waking up for. This moment brought Ruth back to a book she had read years ago, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. In it, the main character, Santiago, is on a journey to find treasure. But what he discovers along the way is something far more valuable. The realization that the journey itself holds the answers to our deepest questions. Santiago learns that the treasure isn't always a destination, but a process. And that faith in tomorrow is often the key to finding what we're searching for. Ruth had never thought of herself as a dreamer, but that morning, as she watched Thomas walk away, she realized that she, too, was on a kind of journey. Every day, she showed up, believing that what she did mattered, even if it seemed small. The simple act of baking, of serving others, of offering something warm to the world, it was a way of saying, I believe in tomorrow. As Ruth cleaned up the kitchen later that morning, the sun fully risen and the bakery bustling with customers, she felt a deep sense of peace. She had reminded herself, as much as she had reminded Thomas, that there is always faith to be found in the simple act of showing up. In the quiet routine of life, there is meaning, even when it's hard to see. Every loaf of bread, every croissant, every cup of coffee served is a small affirmation that tomorrow will come, and with it, new opportunities. And so, just as the bakery opened at 5 a.m. every day, so too did Ruth open her heart to the possibility of tomorrow, knowing that even in the smallest acts, there was always a reason to keep going. Thank you for being here with us at Everyday Epiphany. If today's story touched your heart or sparked a thought, subscribe and stay with us. Your next epiphany might just be one story away.